So welcome to today's episode. So today I'm going to share with you what's in my camera bag. Now I've just got serious about filmmaking pretty recently. I've been doing this, making videos for about 10 years, but I was never the one behind the camera learning about cameras, lenses, all of that. And recently I've started learning about it. I've actually got a course where I'm sharing what I'm learning each day as I get better and better. So I'm still a fairly basic filmmaker, still quite new to editing, but I'm going to share with you what gear I use. So let's start with my camera. So here it is. This is the camera that I've been using. This is one of them. I'll share with you the other one in just a moment. This is a Sony A7R II. Now this was picked up secondhand. This is a few years old. It's definitely not the most recent model. I think they have the A7R III now. But this camera, I checked online and brand new, I think these are about 1,800 bucks, something like that. And this is a decent camera. I was quite surprised at some of the really talented YouTubers I see. One of them by the name of Brandon Lee was using one of these up until recently and just making some incredible footage, which just goes to show that it's not really so much about the camera, it's about the person operating it. So I'm still learning how to use it and getting better and better. But it's a good camera. What I like about it is, number one, the autofocus is really good for focusing to your face. So when I'm filming alone, which sometimes I am, I don't have someone behind the camera, I need a camera which can automatically focus on my face. So if I'm walking around or I'm getting closer, further away, this does a really good job of that. So this is a good camera. Now, let's talk about the lens. So the lens that I have on it right now, it's a 35mm 2.8 aperture. And this is a decent lens for all around general stuff. This stays on the camera most of the time. I travel a lot and I don't want to be taking, big heavy lenses or excessive lenses that I don't really plan to use a lot. So this lens, I've taken this on trips to Asia, to the South Pacific, a number of places. And it's a good kind of mid-range lens. Now the aperture 2.8 means that if I shoot like really close to this, if my face is close to it and I've got a deep background, I can get a nice blurred effect in the background. So this is a decent lens. Now I'll share with you the other camera that I've been using. Now the other camera that we've been using, which right now is filming me, it's the A7S. Now it's a similar price range. It's better in low light, and often we are filming in low light right before sunset, so that's important. It's also built more for videos as opposed to this, which is built more for photos. But this is still great for videos. So we've been using that in a lot of these episodes as well. Now the other lens that I've been using, and really there's only two lenses that I use, mostly it's the 35mm I just showed you, but this lens, this goes to 105mm, so 18 to 105mm for the aperture. And I don't know a whole lot about lenses, to be honest with you, but this lens, this is much better. If we're filming something that's far away, to pull it up nice and close, we can really zoom in on this. So for example, the other week we went to Manuel Antonio, to this big national park, and a lot of the nature was up in the trees, kind of far away. So that 35mm I just showed you, that wouldn't be good for that. But this, we can really get in nice and close. We can get some great shots. So when I travel, I have been taking this, but I don't use it a whole lot. But it is good if you're going to be filming something further away, to have a lens like this, it's good. That lens I just showed you, that's a prime lens. So in other words, you can't adjust how close or far zooming, but this one you can. So this is a decent lens. I don't know what this cost. I've had it for a little while, but I think it's the G series, so I think it's a decent lens. But that's it, just two lenses. So next is this big thing. Now what is this? This is a Ronin-S. Now this is a stabilizer, or a gimbal, I guess you'd call it. I got this more recently. This was about $1,000 from where I brought it. I think you could get them a lot cheaper on Amazon. And I didn't know it at the time, but there's a newer model called the Ronin-SC. This is the Ronin-S, and this is bigger. This is for heavier cameras, but it's heavy. Now, prior to this, I did have an even bigger one called the Ronin-M, I think it's called. It's this big one you hold with two hands, and it's got a lot more moving parts. But this is more mobile. So you can actually take this apart. You can take off the bottom and see that, see the handle that I'm holding with the lights on. This is actually the battery. What you can do is you can move this apart. So the whole thing comes apart, and it comes with a piece of Velcro where you can tie all of this up to stop it moving. The Ronin-S, the newer model, which is smaller, has locks built in. So that's one of the downsides of this. It does flap around a lot, and I don't like that. So this is for getting nice steady shots. So a lot of the shots that you see that I do on my vlogs where we're walking around, they are shot with this, or where we are riding through the jungle on the ATVs. If you're wondering how we get those kind of shots, it's with this. The person holding the camera, they've got one hand on this. And when you pick this up, like this would weigh, I guess, 1.5 kilograms, something like that. It doesn't feel too heavy, but when you're holding this for a long time, and you can use the tripod, by the way, two hands like that, this gets heavy. Now it's also got a nice little focus here, but it doesn't work. I haven't figured out how to connect it to my Sony camera, but this would be really nice if you can get this to pull your focus in. It does have controls on the back, so you can put it in different modes. So for example, you can make it super responsive. So if you're shooting something more sportier, like you wanted to shoot some birds flying around and you've got to move it, or someone running, you can put it in a mode where it's really responsive. And then you can have another mode where it's very unresponsive. So if you move it, it kind of lags behind, the camera slowly moves. But if you want to get steady shots, having one of these, it's important, but it's not essential. And this is something I've learned more recently. As I'm starting to learn more about filmmaking, I thought to get super steady shots, I needed all of this gear. But I've seen some really talented YouTubers who do work like that I think, wow, that's amazing. And a lot of them just shoot handheld. So it really is more about the skills of the person holding the camera. So you don't need one of these. If you travel a lot, I would not recommend this. I would not recommend it because, especially if you don't check in luggage like me, I never check luggage. I always do just carry on, even if I'm traveling to the other side of the world. If you put this in your bag and you got to take this on the plane, this adds a lot of weight. So often I'll be overweight with my bags, and a lot of it comes from this. It's very heavy. So I recommend something far better. Let me show you. This is a DJI, the same company that made that big Ronin. This is a pocket Osmo, and it literally does fit in your pocket. Now, the real technology, like what makes this so incredible, not just the camera, but the little gimbal here, this little stabilizer is quite remarkable. You can be walking around with this and you can get some incredible steady shots, far better than you could get, say, on your phone. Now you can buy DJI gimbals for your phone, right? And I have one, but I don't really use it that much. This is incredible. I've taken this on the road with me where I've traveled, you know, I've been going through airports and traveling to different hotels, and I wanted a camera that I could kind of document my journey, and this was perfect. Even I wanted to film going through the airport. Now, walking through the airport with a big, you know, Ronin-S, everyone's going to see that, and I personally, I wouldn't feel comfortable walking around with a big camera. I just wouldn't, okay, especially in a really public place. It's too obvious, and this is far more discreet. This, you can literally be walking along, you could have your wallet in one hand on top of it, and if you want to film just you know, an episode where you're traveling, or a time lapse, something that you want to speed up to show your journey, especially for the travel vloggers, this is perfect. It really is. Now, it's not as sturdy as a GoPro. I used to have a GoPro, I don't these days. So if you are doing an action shot, like you're riding a bike or you're hiking through a jungle and there's, you know, a lot of things hitting it, branches and so on, this is not, I mean, it feels sturdy. It's very well made. But for all other purposes, this is incredible. This can shoot in 4K. This can shoot up to 120 frames per second, which means that you can really slow down the footage. The battery life is great. I think it will last you a good 6 hours. I think SD card goes in there. It's got a nice little carry case, which I didn't bring here, but it it fits in snugly, so when you put it in the carry case, you can charge it, you can remove the SD card without taking it out of the case. So this, if you want to buy this brand new, I think they're about 400 bucks. Don't quote me on that, I need to check on that. But I recommend if you get this, then get this as well. Now this might look like just an ordinary selfie stick, but it's actually a lot more. This is made by DJI, the same company, and you buy this separately. Make sure you get the DJI one because it's all built to, you know, program or to connect with this perfectly. The great thing about this, and this little stand, by the way, that's from something else, but get one of these. You can buy one of these generically for cheap. But it comes like this, and you see this part here. This is where you would put your phone, right? So you put your phone in here, this is adjustable, and your phone will act as a monitor. And then this extends all the way out, so you can be holding it out here, and you can use it like a selfie stick, but you can also add face track to it. With face track, you can be waving it around, you can be walking, and it will stay perfectly on your face. And with this little gimbal here, it will be incredibly steady. So you can get some really nice shots with it. Also, I forgot to mention, this thing here, this shoots amazing time lapses. And I think they're called a hyperlapse, but it's where you can have a time lapse where it starts at point A and it moves to point B. And it's really easy to use. Like if I can figure this out, how to use one of these, then you definitely can. So this thing is invaluable, and what I love about it so much is that when you travel as much as I do, it's just so convenient, right? Holding this, it's so light. This replaces this. This doesn't even have the camera on it. If you have a camera on this, this takes up so much space, it's so bulky, it's so inconspicuous, but this little thing, it does pretty much exactly the same job as this. The quality of this compared to this with a decent DSLR camera, you know, they're never going to be the same. This will never be as good because the sensor is nowhere near the size of a much better camera. But personally, I am prepared to sacrifice a little bit of quality for the lightweight and just small size of this. I mean, I can't stress this enough. The more I get into making videos and the more I travel a lot, the more I value lightweight, highly mobile, convenient items like this. You can use this everywhere. Now, one other thing that I do want to add is you can purchase this from DJI as well. Now, like the little selfie stick, this is also overpriced. This is, I forget the price, but I remember being like, well, that's quite ridiculous. What this is a case so that you can take this underwater. Now, the GoPros, the best GoPros, you can take them underwater. I think, in fact, all of them are pretty much waterproof. But this is not waterproof. However, if you get this case, it looks like this. You can unscrew this part here. Just make sure you keep the lens nice and clean. But so it's got this glass, right? And the camera will look through this, and it's sealed, so you can take it underwater. I've tried it out. I had it in the, I forget the name of the place, but in Singapore, they've got that famous hotel, Marina Bay Sands. There's this pool, and I used it up there for the very first time, and I got some incredible footage swimming underwater and then coming out of the water and looking at the city skyline. Okay, but this is made just by DJI. I'm sure you could buy a generic one. You've got your record button on the outside, but I really like this because, again, it's small. You can take it with you, and now you can take this underwater. So the next thing, I definitely do not take this with me when traveling, although I have in the past. Many years ago we would use this. So this is a teleprompter. Now, I don't like to use teleprompters for most of my videos because I prefer to speak off the cuff. I believe it just feels a little bit more real. But sometimes I do use a teleprompter, especially if I have a much longer script and I want to be more precise. So I've had a lot of teleprompters over the years. We used to use them in our live events. We would have people who weren't experienced making videos. We'd put them in front of the camera to make videos for them. and they needed a teleprompter. So I brought lots of them, and some of them were these big heavy things which were really difficult to travel with. You would need these big Pelican cases. You'd have to check in, you know, overweight bags, oversized bags, and it was just a nightmare to travel with. This thing, this folds up, it comes in a nice convenient case, very you know, protective case. It's called, let me see the name, Glider Gear. I checked online last night, this is 200 bucks. Okay, you can buy one of these for 200 bucks. But what makes this a really nice piece of gear is the construction of this. It's sturdy, but it's simple. It's not elaborate. It folds, if you pull these out, it actually folds back. So it folds up nice and small. Okay, so you take these little things out, they hold it in place, the glass. I'll talk about the glass in a moment. And then you can actually fold it back, right? So it folds up like that. And then this entire thing slides in. So it actually folds up to be quite compact. Now, what makes a teleprompter work is the glass you see here. This is like mostly one-way glass. So you've got the camera looking through on from behind. The camera sits on here, and this sits onto a tripod. The camera sits on here. So you can seal this black bag around the camera so it doesn't let any light in. And what you see if you're reading the teleprompter, you're looking at this. So you don't see the camera behind it, but you can see the text on the glass. Now, it works by reflecting either an iPad, or you can get a cheaper tablet. I use the Samsung tablet. You can buy one probably for 70 bucks, you know, something like that. You download an app. Okay, there's lots and lots of apps, and a lot of them are free. I use, I think it's called Pelican or something like that. I'll check and I'll put a link somewhere for you. But this is great if you're going to make a lot of videos and you have videos that you do want to script and you do want to have be you know, a little bit tidier. Then get a teleprompter, but don't get one of the big, expensive, heavy, oversized ones. If you're, you know, just making videos for YouTube, this is more than adequate. So the next piece of gear that I use is a drone. Now, I love footage from drones. I believe that if you can add that into your videos, just on your intros, your outros, just to show the setting, it really takes your videos to another level. Now, 5 years ago, it used to be a big deal to see drone footage in videos. Nowadays, like, everyone's got a drone. But still, I would recommend you get one if you're serious about making high quality videos for your vlog or whatever the purposes are. This is a DJI Mavic 2 Pro. And this thing was about $2,000, 2,000 US, about, from where I got it. I probably overpaid. I'm sure you could get these much cheaper on Amazon, but where I was, I just couldn't. But what I like about this thing, that's the battery that I took out. It folds up to be quite compact. Now, they did just come out with the Mavic Air, I think a Mavic 2 Air or something like that. It's a newer model, everyone's raving about it. It's much smaller. If I could get a drone again, I would go with that, because as small as this is, and it is small, you can travel with this much more easily than the previous models. It's still got a little bit of weight to it, so you can actually go smaller, and I would recommend to you, especially if you're getting started, go a little bit smaller. But what I like about this is they're hard to crash. When I first got it, I noticed like there's sensors everywhere. There's sensors here, on every side, above, below. Actually, they don't, yeah, even above. They've got sensors everywhere. So if you get too close to an object, it will stop itself unless you put it in sports mode. Now, I spoke too soon because I thought I would never crash this, and a few weeks ago I did crash it. I was flying it over some waterfalls and I crashed it in probably the worst place you could crash it, in the jungle. I crashed into a rock wall and there was a pool of water about 2 meters deep, and I literally crashed it directly over that, and it sunk right to the bottom, and it sat there for about 25 minutes under 2 meters of water, fully submerged. Someone swam down, got it. I dried it out in a box of rice for a week, and it actually still flies. It's got some character now, you know, it's got a few little tweaks, twerks to it, but it still flies. So these things, they are built very well, solid construction, you know, it doesn't feel cheap. It feels like a precision piece of equipment. It's got this little cover as well. but you can get some incredible shots with this. They also have the DJI Mavic 2 Zoom, I think it's called, but this is just the Mavic Pro, so this doesn't zoom in, but I like it. This is a good piece of equipment, and I had 3 batteries. I lost one when I crashed it underwater, so now I've got 2. The control folds up nice and compact, so it folds out, you plug your phone in, you've got an app, so it's portable, it gets great footage. I recommend get a drone, and DJI makes great drones. So the next piece of equipment I want to show you is this. This is my audio. This is my old beaten up audio device. This is a Sennheiser EW100 G3. And this is old. This is probably 3 years old. You can see the connection needs to be replaced. But this is what I use for my audio. You would have noticed in my vlogs that I've been doing, my audio overall, it's pretty good. There's sometimes a hum in the background, and that's probably not because of the device, that's the settings I have not being perfect. But it works this way. You wear this, like normally I wear this on my belt, and the mic is right here. You can probably hear that. So I plug my mic in right here between my, whatever this part's called, and I usually put tape around it. Double-sided tape, so it sticks to my clothing, and it runs down my shirt, and this is on my belt. And on the camera there's another one that looks just like these plugged into the camera, so you turn them both on, you put them on the same frequency, they stay on that frequency. You can adjust it if you have interfering frequencies. I never do, but brand new, I think they've got newer models. These are a little bit pricier. I think they're like over 600 bucks brand new. These days, probably a lot cheaper. But audio's really important. It's really important. Most of the audio input on a normal camera, usually they're pretty bad. So you definitely need to have something for your audio. I wouldn't recommend going for this right away. If you're just getting started, I would go for something much simpler, like a simple Rode mic you can plug into your camera. Just like this. So this is a Rode mic. This is a cheap one. This was probably 40 or 50 bucks, something like that. There's one that I want to get, which is closer to 300, I think, but it's much better. But this is a cheap one, sits on the camera, and as long as you are not too far away, 1 to 2 meters, something like that, this will pick up pretty good audio. But if you start to have background noise, the difference, like if you're in a car, for example, you're driving and you can hear the engine, the difference between this and the Sennheiser that I'm wearing right now, it's night and day. Okay, you can really hear the difference. But if you're doing travel vlogs where you're moving around a lot, wearing a Sennheiser mic like this, you know, if you're doing run and gun and you're having to set up and take down, and sometimes these are just a lot more convenient. So if you're just getting started, I would get something like this, 50 bucks. The next piece of equipment is a tripod. Now I have another tripod which is holding the camera right now, an older one, but when I travel, I use this, and I don't even know the brand. It's a VEO, whatever that is. But I picked this up for like 70 or 80 bucks, I believe. It's carbon fiber. It's not a, you know, it's not a really high quality one, but I think it's pretty good. It's kind of light. Okay, you can definitely get heavier ones. What I like about it is if you're shooting on uneven ground, if you have one of these heads where you can move it and it's not fixed, it's quite convenient if you travel a lot to have a head like that. But when you get a tripod, if you're traveling a lot, lightweight and being small like this is important. This, when you extend it out, you know, it goes out quite a long way. But when you do extend it out, it is kind of flimsy. So, you know, you wouldn't use this if you have a film studio and you're shooting a lot of high-end videos. This, I wouldn't have a big expensive camera on this. But when you're traveling, you know, this is more than adequate. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is lighting. So I have a few lights, not too many. This is the one that I take with me when I travel. The brand is Iwata, I-W-A-T-A, Genius Suite. It's not an expensive light. It is, you know, it's probably 15 bucks, 20 bucks, but you can adjust the colors and the intensity. So I can make it more yellow, I can make it more bright, and this will last about an hour. So I can plug this into my laptop, charge it, but it's incredibly light. So this is great to travel with, a small little light like this. And also sometimes you'll be filming and you might be using window light on your face, but you want a light from behind to separate you from your background. These kind of lights are great for that. You can put them anywhere. They've got quite a bit of power for their size. So I recommend you get a cheap LED light like this that you can adjust the intensity. It's quite handy. The other main light that I have, it's on my face right now. If we turn it off, let's have a look at the difference. So that's off. Let's go back on. So that's an LED light. The brand is Dracast. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. They are a little bit more pricier. I will look up exactly what the cost is, but they are for sale on Amazon. And if you're just getting started, I don't think you need that. I think you could get a cheaper brand, but they are good. The intensity, you can adjust it. You can adjust the color of the light as well. I don't really get into that at this stage. I'm still learning about lighting, so normally I just adjust the intensity a bit and that's it. But they're sturdy, they're not so portable. I definitely don't take it when I travel. But you do need lighting. If you have a choice between what to buy with a camera body, lenses, lighting, I would say lenses and lighting, that's where you would want to put your money as opposed to the camera body and other things, tripods and so on. Lighting's important. So having a good little portable light, that's going to be a good investment to make, and you don't have to spend that much money at all. So that's pretty much it. That's what I have in my camera bag. Again, I'm not an experienced filmmaker. I'm still quite new to this, but that serves me quite well. And as I go forwards, I'm sure I will invest in more gear, but the trend for me is moving towards more portable, smaller gear that's more mobile. I think that's far more important than having all the big, expensive, heavy gear, because really it's about the skill of the person using the camera and what you can do in editing. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you subscribe, and I will talk to you tomorrow.